Olympic champion Caster Semenya has won the appeal against testosterone rules at the European Court of Human Rights. Joining me now is our sports anchor, Benjamin Leshoro, who's going to expand for us on some of what the judgment has had to say. Benji, let's begin with what is clearly a very hotly debated matter at that court, because this is not a unanimous judgment. It's a majority judgment split between a vote of 4 against 3. What does that tell us?
Exactly that, Colin, that it was very contentious. Excuse me. It was a hot potato, so to speak, because for some time now, for a couple of years, nobody wanted to, they didn't know, or a lot of people didn't know which is right and which is wrong. Because remember, the argument for those who lobbied for athletes with differences in sexual development, for them to take testosterone-reducing medication, was that it is unfair to other athletes competing in the same categories who do not have high levels of testosterone, right? So it was a case of do you go for fairness or for inclusion? So that was the contentious issue here, that had a lot of people not wanting to even touch this matter.
Yeah. Benji, I want to just read a little bit of what this judgment says, and I'm just going to read it right at the top, because it does seem that there was a number of violations as regards to the persona of Caster Semenya as a human being, as a private individual. And it's perhaps going to lead us to the question about what this means for Caster. So, for example, they talk about a violation of Article 14, which has to do with the prohibition of discrimination, taken together with Article 8, which is the right to respect for private life of the European Convention on Human Rights. And then there are a couple of other violations or articles that were violated. For example, a right to an effective remedy in relation to the Article 14 I have spoken about. So, ultimately here, Benji, Caster Semenya, as you've already put it, the IAAF, which, by the way, has since changed its name, it's now the
World Athletics.
World Athletics. They forced Caster Semenya to basically take hormone treatment in order to reduce her natural testosterone. This judgment, what does it mean for her?
And it must be put on record that Caster has maintained her stance since then to say, I will not. I'd rather not run if it means that I have to take testosterone-reducing medication. She has never.
And as a result, she has actually been excluded.
Yes, she has been excluded, which actually is also included in the findings here, the judgment, because it says, namely participating in athletics competitions at international level and therefore practicing her profession. So the rules by IAAF, then World Athletics now, meant that Caster Semenya cannot practice her profession. And at human level, she has also lost out on a considerable amount of money by virtue of missing out on big tournaments. What? I mean, we were not sure whether Caster Semenya would even take part in the Paris Olympics next year, which by a lot of people's standards, or looking at where she is age-wise, was supposed to be her swan song. And it would have been an incredibly sad end to what has been an iconic career over the years. Since Caster started, since she rose to stardom in 2009, it's always been more about her as a person than her, the athlete, despite the incredible success that she's had on the track itself.
As you talk, Benji, as we talk about her exclusion, it brings up so many other questions about this exclusion and whether she can actually now sue civilly in terms of losses. Because what you remind me of is the I think, is he Jamaican? The athletics runner who retired recently, Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt, yes, Jamaican.
Usain Bolt, I think him and Caster basically hit the stardom at the same time.
Yes.
And look at
where Usain Bolt, yes.
Look at the amount of accolades that Usain Bolt has accumulated over time,
and the fortune,
what Caster would,
yes.
and the fortune,
because Usain Bolt, if a lot of people remember, came out, blew up at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, where this kid from Jamaica and everything, and he went on to win in London, in Rio, and everything, broke all sorts of records. And Caster's projected success was also supposed to be along those lines. But you're asking about whether she will be able to lay claim or sue and all of that. Tell you what, we were just in conversation just after the news broke with her lawyer, Greg Knott, and he says, listen, at the moment we're celebrating. We are still taking it in, soaking it in. We are deliberating as to how we now move forward and see what are the avenues that we can explore in as far as this issue is concerned. But it's a massive, massive victory for not only Caster Semenya, for South Africa, for women athletes. Yes, in an incredible year for women's sport all over the world. Remember, this was, although you may argue that it was targeted at Caster Semenya, it was formally put down as athletes with differences in sexual development, DSD they call it, who run distances from 400 meters to a mile, which just so happens that in there's the 800 meters, which is Caster Semenya's specialty, and she could not run that, and she was forced to maybe try out at the 200 meters and the 1,500s and the 5,000s, and she could not perform to the best of her abilities because her specialist event is the 800 meters, right? And she was robbed of that opportunity to run that for a few years now. And it's been really, really sad, and it's a massive, massive victory for a lot of those who look up to Caster Semenya as well.
Yeah, a bittersweet moment, I would say. So we're going to have to look forward to what Caster Semenya's next step is going to be, but it has been an incredible fight for her as she finds a way to assert her rights.